Hi guys, this is Adrian Shepherd, author of iSucceed and creator of iSucceedBook.com. And today we're in for a real treat as I am on the line with Mr. Kyle Wilson. For the past 20 years, Kyle has worked with many of the self-development leaders of our time, including Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, and many, many more. And it's a pleasure to have you on the line with us today, Kyle.
Hey, great to be with you.
Okay, could you start out by sharing with us a little bit about who you are and how you got into marketing?
Well, I actually grew up in a small town and was always an entrepreneur, always had my own little business. I started as a kid, and eventually, when I was 26 years old, I moved to the big city, to Dallas, and just started a little small business. I, again, had no money. This was a little detail shop. So again, I was cleaning cars, and but I always had a niche for marketing and just being an entrepreneur. And I went to a sales seminar, and the guy who was promoting the seminar, come to find out, years earlier had worked with Jim Rohn and had actually, Tony Robbins was one of his fellow salespeople promoting Jim Rohn back in the 80s. And so I got a job working for this gentleman. His name was Jerry Haynes. And within a year or two, he went back to promoting Jim Rohn. And so I had the incredible opportunity in 1990 to start promoting Jim Rohn. And I became the top sales guy for Jerry. And eventually, Adrian, I went out on my own because I just wasn't making that much income. And I started my own company, and I would travel around the country doing big events. And so I ended up hiring Jim and people like Og Mandino or Brian Tracy. I would do a 2 or 3 speaker event in each city. And by 1993, I made Jim Rohn an offer he couldn't refuse, and that was that we start Jim Rohn International together. But it's something you and I talked about before. I didn't have any financing. I was using my credit card, my gas credit card to buy it at one time. So, it was just pure hard work and really into personal development, reading the books, listening to tapes, and sitting in the back of the room of these seminars I was promoting, and then some good fortune as well. Especially getting to meet with Jim Rohn.
Wow, that's awesome. It sounds so simple the way you say it, though. But I'm sure it wasn't, all, blue skies. And, every now and then we have hiccups along the way. And I'm sure you've had your fair share. You said you were using a credit card, so I'm sure there must have been some tough times. What hiccups did you have early on that proved to be valuable insights later?
And absolutely. And to what you were saying, but let me say this. As you were sharing that, I was just reflecting, and I had built up incredible work muscles 10 years before I had the opportunity with Jim Rohn. Mm-hmm. So my work ethic was very strong. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a muscle that has to be developed sometimes. And I had developed it in some previous businesses and ventures. And that's really what carried me through, was just my work ethic, my, 6 days, sometimes 7 days, 15, 16 hours a day for a long period of time. And oftentimes not having success, right? Being very optimistic and positive, but not reaching what I wanted to reach because maybe it was the wrong opportunity. Maybe it was the wrong vehicle. And so, eventually I found the right vehicle. But when I found it, I didn't have to go build the work muscle. I already had the muscle. But no, I made so many financial mistakes. I had, in a previous business, people steal from me. I made a lot of my own immature mistakes. That's what I like to call them. Experience, you're going to make some immature mistakes. And, it's your strength weakness. When you're aggressive and you take risks, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some.
Sure.
And, but no, I think the biggest thing I felt, the biggest obstacle, was just not getting discouraged. That's the thing I face the most, because when you put in so much time, effort, and work, and you don't always get the reward, what you might not see at the moment is you're building your own skills. And I think that's one thing Jim Rohn talks about, is the skills you build are as important as the rewards you get, because you can carry the skills forward in the next venture.
Sure. I love Jim Rohn's quote about, set a goal to become a millionaire for what it will make of you to achieve it. I've always loved that. When I heard that, it turned my life around in the sense that, $1 million is wonderful, but what you get in becoming the millionaire is something that you'll have forever. $1 million can come and go, but you'll keep the knowledge that you had. And I've always, that's influenced me greatly in my life.
No.
Sorry?
I agree.
Yeah. What do you feel then is the number one secret that the average person doesn't know out there?
Well, I think most people, you hear it, it's a cliche, but you have to fail your way forward. And I think people really don't take that to heart. They don't realize that, some outrageous number of 15 failures before the average millionaire became a millionaire, and I think bankruptcies, that type of thing. It's just, I think most people don't realize that our failures are the things that educate us. They're the things that help us, realize what we need to change and reevaluate, but just to keep moving forward. And then, of course, I think personal development. People underestimate the power of personal development. We, when I think of a Dennis Waitley, Dennis has written 18 books, and he told me every book he wrote was during most people's TV time. So instead of watching TV 3 hours a night, he was building his own career. So I think that's another thing. I like Darren Hardy's a very good friend of mine, and he's the publisher of Success Magazine. And Darren has reached a pinnacle of success, yet I know his habits, and he still will invest in personal development more than he does entertainment. And I mean, I love sports. I like entertainment as much as the next guy. The key is just keeping the equation in the right balance. Brian Tracy talks about the E versus E, entertainment versus education. And you just got to make sure your education quotient of time is greater than your entertainment time that you invest.
That's excellent. Actually, I'd never heard about the E versus E quotient before. I'd heard about some of the other people using their time wisely, and that's one of the things that I found a few years ago, that just by adjusting your time, you can move mountains almost. It's just what people overlook. Time management, the best kept secret of the rich, right? That's what Jim Rohn used to say.
Especially the compounded effect.
Sure, which is Darren Hardy's new book, right?
Correct.
That's right. Excellent book. I loved it.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. I know you released a new product. Could you tell us about it?
Well, it's the Online Marketing Mentor Program, and in my world, a lot of times you think everyone is already doing all the right things. And I'm just amazed at how often I talk to a speaker or a small business owner, and you would think, you see some of the things they're doing right. Maybe they're doing social media the right way, or you just see some things that are really on track, and then you find out some of the core basics of marketing they're not doing. In particular, they're not building a list that they can communicate with. Just such advantages when you're very proactive about making sure all your customers, prospects, everyone that's ever gone to your website, your articles, your blogs, everything you do, that you're in a list building mode, so then you can communicate almost for free, and you can use it for announcements and selling products and communication, and there's so many positives you can do. So what I wanted to do was create a product that would take all the principles of online marketing that I was able to utilize and be successful. I think the big turn in my business, Adrian, was in 1999 when I discovered the Internet. I was a little bit late to the party, but we really applied the right marketing principles to the internet, and our business just skyrocketed. And so the same principles I use to build a million-plus list and to create intellectual properties and do joint ventures, those principles we teach in this 6-week course.
Okay, wonderful. And I also read somewhere that you're working on a new book, right?
Right. It's called 52 Lessons from Jim Rohn and other great legends I worked with. And it's just a lesson every week of something I might have learned from a Mark Victor Hansen, who I co-authored Chicken Soup for the Entrepreneurial Soul with, or a Brian Tracy or a Harvey McKay. Just different speakers primarily and authors that I promoted and worked with. And through one of my companies, YourSuccessStore.com, we did a lot of different events, sold a lot of products. So I just had the good fortune to spend time with these incredible people. And I remember spending 2 days with Paul Meyer of SMI, and I saw your thing on Facebook today about the books. And that reminds me of Paul Meyer going into his office and seeing 5,000 books conference room. And they were all labeled, and it was just phenomenal. And so just different lessons I learned along the way. And I do keep it to the positive lessons, because I think there's some negatives as well. I would say there's things you learn not to do, right?
Of course.
And really sometimes those are as valuable, if not more valuable. But these are 52 great lessons. And
when will that be available?
Well, basically you can go online now. It's free if you go to kylewilson.com/52lessons. And when you give us your email, we'll just send you out a lesson every week.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Wow, that's awesome. I'm sure everybody will love that. I mean, I definitely will sign up as soon as I get off this call with you.
Very good.
Okay, a few other things quickly, and then we'll wrap up, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I know that you're a big believer in the power of words, as I am, and I know that you've worked with so many great people, and you've heard so many incredible quotes. Do you have a favorite quote?
I like Jim Rohn's, learn to be happy with what you have while you pursue all that you want.
Great.
I think
great.
That sums it up, because there's this balance between, if you never arrive, you never get everything you want. And I've seen some people live very modest lives but be happy. Mm-hmm. That's a great, and I know Jim Rohn talked about that. Mm-hmm. He is being happy. So if you're very ambitious, that's a great thing as well, because you can then not only provide for yourself and your family, but you can then help other people as well. So, balancing those two, but being happy, but yet being healthily ambitious. I don't think that's, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Being ambitious in such a way that you're driven to make a difference in other people's lives and be a benefactor to other people.
Yeah, that's one of the things I guess I've been blessed with, to have, a strong family, and I think if you have a strong family, grounding, it really helps you set up for success in life. I believe, because that's where your foundation, it all begins.
Absolutely.
I do think, though, that you said earlier that self-development is something that people, underestimate the power of, and for years I wasn't at all interested in it. I just happened to run into a little problem, a business problem. I didn't have the answers living here in Japan, so I turned to books to help solve them, and it led me on one heck of a journey.
Very good.
Sorry? Oh, thanks. Okay, well, when it comes, since you're a marketing expert, or maybe you're also a self-development expert too, what 2 or 3 books are must-reads in your mind?
Think and Grow Rich, I think, continues to be a book that when you look at people like a Dan Kennedy and a Jim Rohn and, people that I admire, that they always reference that book as making a difference. And it truly did for me. And of course, Jim Rohn says, there's a little bit of weird stuff in there to some people, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, just do the stuff that makes sense to you and ignore the weird. And I've always been pretty good about that. Just I don't have to agree with everything someone says to get benefit from it. Sure. So I think that's a really powerful book. Another classic was The Magic of Thinking Big. Mm-hmm. I remember the impact that made in my life. Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was a big difference maker for me. Great.
3 excellent books. Definitely. Interesting.
Not necessarily marketing books, but Jim Rohn always talked about it's the why more than the how.
Sure.
And those books will help you find the why.
Great. Well said. Yeah. 3 excellent books. I have them all on my shelf. Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have 2 boys. That's correct?
A boy and a girl.
Oh, a boy and a girl. Okay. And I'm a parent myself, and I'm constantly thinking of how to prepare my son for the world today. What advice do you have for parents out there, being a parent yourself, on how to prepare your children for the world?
Well, I have 2 teenagers, an 18-year-old and a 16. And I think, one thing I realized is they're only half yours. They're half the person you married. And the person I married is very different than me. Mm-hmm. And so where I'm very almost type A, fortunately, she is more a people person. And so my kids didn't come out just, like in athletics in particular. They weren't out there maybe as nitty-gritty as I was. So as a coach, when they were younger, I was pretty aggressive. And I learned that they weren't responding to that. And so I really backed off. And so I think that's one of the things I've learned is to not necessarily treat your kids the way you would have wanted to be treated as a kid or the way that you were treated. But just realize, hey, the number one thing you have to do is set the example yourself. Sometimes we expect our kids to be better than us. And then number 2, realize, we as 30, 40, 50, 60-year-olds still are dealing with challenges every day. We're still making mistakes. We're still failing forward. And so it's okay when our kids fail. It's okay when they don't necessarily succeed at what we think they should be succeeding at, because hopefully they're learning from that. And so I think that's the other thing, creating an environment where it's okay to fail as long as they're making forward.
Okay. That's an excellent advice. I love it. Okay. Do you have any final words then?
No, it's just a pleasure to be on the show. And I really enjoy seeing your Facebook post.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad we've got to know each other.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your insights, and I'll be putting up a post about it and sharing it with my list. So I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I have.
Okay. Hey, thanks so much.
Oh, take care.
Okay, you too.